that was flashing in front. I was watching that. I was like, wow, this is really amazing. But sometimes I'd have to repeat it. So, but now that novelty has worn off. So now I listen to the message, and Phaseus is almost always telepathic. So that's what they do.
What have they asked you to do in order to help them?
Just to disseminate information. I'm currently in the process of trying to investigate all of the current UFO information that's out there, and what I've had the ability to do is sometimes check it with them. Well, is this true? Is that true? And they've said yes, or they've said no. There is a lot of disinformation out there. So what I've been trying to do is just to assimilate what is real and give it from their perspective of how it affects us. We have a real mess on our hands.
Okay, let's talk about some of that. According to your Andromedan sources, there are 3 groups of extraterrestrials who are involved in very distressing agendas here on Earth. One is the renegade gray-skinned Zeta Reticulans. Another is the Giza intelligence, formerly of the Pleiades. And a third is the reptilians from Alpha Draconis. Is there another?
Yes.
Okay.
There's the Orion group as well, and there's 141 of them here. And they're from Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, Rigel, and Betelgeuse. From that particular group, that particular area of the star system. There are a lot of agendas here, hidden agendas. And you have to understand that some of the races, for example, the Draconians. The Draconians themselves did not evolve as a life form in our universe. They were dumped here. They were brought here because they're just a pain. They're incredibly smart. They're incredibly psychic. They're incredible builders, but they're bullies. Their whole thing is control, domination. And because there's no race in our universe that can really beat them up and wipe them out, they don't have to choose light or dark. They're just where they are. And they've chosen the opposite polarity. They're a tough bunch. They've manipulated a lot of civilizations throughout our galaxy. They're also responsible for the 600,000-year war, which almost annihilated the human species in our galaxy. And they show very little remorse about it. Hopefully they'll be leaving soon. But the others are life forms that have evolved, like the Orions. The Orion group has been genetically manipulated and have been deeply entrenched in Draconian belief systems. So they're carrying that energy or that torch for whatever their agendas are, as well as their own agendas. Okay? The reticulant, the Greys have been controlled and manipulated by the Orion group. So there is a system, a class system here that's been established. And this is very common in the non-benevolent or regressive extraterrestrial structures, where there's a class system of workers, warriors, administrative or priests, and then the hierarchy, the royalty. And the lower you are, the worse you're treated. We have a history of that here on our planet as well.
Right.
You know,
and
and we've been taught this by the aliens themselves.
Right.
And the Pleiadians very much were part of that as well. For a time, they were very much in that belief system.
Well, let's focus for a while on the renegade Zeta Reticulans. The agenda of the gray-skinned Zeta Reticulans.
Okay. Number one, I would like to say that, there's a lot of confusion that not all reticulans are evil. There are some reticulans that are incredible healers, that are incredibly benevolent. Unfortunately, most of them are getting a bad rap right now because of what the Greys are doing. And there are 5 different subspecies of Greys.
May I interject here for a moment? I've heard the phrase long-nosed Grey describing their physical characteristics.
Those are not the benevolent reticulans.
Okay.
The benevolent reticulans look like children.
So the non-benevolent ones are the long-nosed Greys?
That's correct.
That's what I thought.
That's correct.
Okay.
And there's a lot of information some people are experiencing real benevolent experiences with them, or they're told that they're experiencing benevolent, when in fact they really haven't. They just maybe haven't been regressed or taken deeply into their subconscious to know what is happening. They're incredible masters of mind manipulation. But anyway, their race is dying. They have been so genetically altered by the Orion group that they cannot reproduce. So they were told by the Orion group to come in here, this is how it's been related to me, to come in here and set the stage to break down the social structures so that when the Orion group and the Draconans come back, there are two classes, royalty and workers, which is exactly what they're doing.
You can see that agenda happening right in the United States since the beginning of the Reagan administration,
this is where focus has been. Has been on the United States, singly. And there's been a reason for that, which we'll cover in just a little bit, but let me get my thoughts out here. Which is exactly what the Greys have been told to do. And they're doing it. In the meantime, they themselves have their own agenda. They see us, because of our genetic stock, of having the DNA of 22 different races, and the racial memories, of trying to breed, to cross the genetic bridge, so that they as a race can have enough genetic stock to continue to propagate their race, which according to the Andromedans, they're destined for extinction. What they're doing is not going to have any long-term effects to propagate their race. So they're desperately trying to do what it is that they're trying to do before all the other two groups get here. The Greys also themselves want to be free from the manipulation of the Orion group, just like we as a race want to be free of their manipulation. So there's this incredible triangle of crap that's hanging all over us, and all these hidden agendas and just brainwashing and bizarre belief systems that are being thrown at us, when they should all leave. Not only the good ones and the bad ones, they should all just leave and leave us alone, which is ultimately what the Andromedans want. But unfortunately, that isn't going to happen right now. Not until some changes occur.
We have to begin to raise our consciousness.
Right, we need to.
Right.
And the first thing we need to do is we need to stop warring with each other. We need to come together as a race, and no matter what happens, we need to stop all of the political garbage and say, look, when it comes down to the bottom line, all we have is each other as a race. Period. And this is our planet, this is our home, and there's enough of us that are polluting the planet that we need to stop. Because if we don't stop polluting the planet, Rick, we're not going to have a place to live. Period.
Is there an Earth quarantine that the renegade Zeta Reticulans violated?
Yes.
And what was that quarantine?
The quarantine was they were supposed to, it's the same quarantine that evolves, that any other evolving planet has. No intervention with an evolving race. But because of our genetic stock, the Greys did it. Now, but they did it in such a way that they didn't totally violate our free will. They dangled a technological carrot to the government, and the government took the bait. They said, sure, for their own reasons, they took the bait, and there was an exchange of technology, and there was a treaty that was signed, and this is a dilemma that the Andromedan Council has. If the United States military had said, go away, the Greys would have had to have left.
So was this the Air Force Base situation or the Eisenhower situation where representatives, is this the one that took place in the 50s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and this was with the Long-Nosed Greys then?
That's true, and there were two groups there as well. The 7 from Sirius B, who are still here, were also witnesses to this, to add credence to it.
Okay.
So,
now,
and there are also, now just to add to this, the Andromedans have also said that in 1933, when the Greys really first got here, that they had actually approached the Germans, and the Germans said, no, you're out of here. We already have an agreement, and apparently the Germans were in touch with Giza intelligence. So the Greys left. They didn't pursue it at all, and they found their next opening here in the United States.
Let's go digress just a moment. You mentioned Sirius B. They have a relationship with the Dogon tribes in Africa, correct? Is that correct?
Yes, I understand that there is some ancestral genetic